Welcome to eAssist Growing Your Dental Business podcast. Tune in as the experts in dental business share tips and tools to grow your practice. To learn more, visit dentalbilling.com. Please welcome our next guest.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing Your Dental Business podcast. I would love to welcome Suzanne Black, who is the president of C3 Results Group, which is also the home of the legendary Dental Bootcamp. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to have a thriving dental practice and Suzanne's blueprint for that. She focuses on reigniting, refocusing, and growing your dental practice. I just have a few little things. Suzanne and I met when I was at Solution Reach, and I loved chatting with her way back then, and we reconnected when I came over to eAssist, and it's been such a pleasure for me. She has been in the dental industry for over 25 years. She's helped dental practices grow and thrive and helped them with sparkling patient experiences, which to me, it says everything. She helps teams feel truly committed and energized, while many of her clients see practice growth over 20%, which is a huge thing for Suzanne. She brings even more value than that. She brings team happiness and a joyful transformation in dentistry. Her success is rooted in her team case presentation and case acceptance expertise. She's a master at helping teams build rapport, connect with patients as she guides them in understanding their dental health so that they feel confident about taking action. Her secret is a suite of innovative systems, tools, and trackers designed to keep practices and patients connected for the long haul. On top of that, she is a certified positive intelligence coach, blending neuropsychology with practical coaching to help dentists and their teams stay laser focused. She has this communication management degree from USC, which helps her with conversations she has designed for the patients, and they are unique. So that's a good thing to talk about today as well. She is more than a business coach and a communication specialist. She's a mindset expert, a trusted friend, and a partner in success. So thank you for being here, Suzanne.
Jacqueline, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
Good.
Awesome.
Good.
Very embarrassing to hear you say all that.
You know what? I just think it's so fun to talk about. This is you, your day, and I love talking about you and the things that you've accomplished because you've worked hard to get where you're at today. And I feel like it's definitely due to, just to kind of offer some props about that. So I am curious though, how did you start C3 Results and what was the driving force behind its creation?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. I started working with dentists in 1986. So it's longer than 25 years. So I'm going to date myself here, I'm afraid, but it's just what's so,
Yeah.
I was in Atlanta at the time, and I was leading a seminar for a large seminar company and on leadership. And this young dentist came up to me and he said, "Suzanne, if I don't get some help, I'm going to shoot my team and shoot myself." And I was like, "Okay, we need to talk." And he said, "First of all, you have the order wrong." And I said, "We need to work on this." And so anyway, with that, I said, "Give me 15 minutes every morning for the next 2 weeks." And he was my first dental client. And I talked to him every morning for 2 weeks, 15 minutes. And we got his head on straight first. And we got him in a place where he wasn't divulging everything to the team because he was having conversations he shouldn't have had, and he was looking for support, but that was the wrong place to look for it. And plus he probably had made every mistake in hiring that you could make. But that was a long time ago. But from there, I went to dental boot camp with the client, and I loved being in dental boot camp with Walter Haley and Steve Anderson and Jolene Jackson and all these great folks, Jeff Gray, and people that I just came to love because I knew them well. And before I left that boot camp in November of 94, Walter said, "You've got to join us." I said, "I don't work for anybody. I work for myself, And I'm just better that way. But if there's a way I can work for myself and I can work with you, then I'm open for this. And so within a year, we worked that out. And so I took over their coaching program, which was really this tiny little program that had maybe 30 people in it or something. And so between 95 and 2006, we grew that. We graduated over 1,500 people from that coaching program. I developed a team of 14 consultants. We had a blast together. We served lots of people, and we really honed our skills of helping people implement the brilliance that was in that dental boot camp. And so, when you say, how did C3 get started? C3 got started because in that time frame, the early 2000s, Walter Haley passed away, and his wife said, Suzanne, we're floundering. Can you help? And I was floundering too. I was in there working with them, And so I did. I raised some money and took it on, and we've kept it going ever since. And I have a very strong commitment to keeping Walter Haley's legacy alive. He was a brilliant contribution to dentistry, even though he was never a dentist. But what he taught was communication. And he taught the dentists to come out of their interior kind of lives and be more expressive with their patients, and to not be afraid to talk to patients, and to not be afraid to ask if they're ready to move forward. He said the biggest problem dentists have is they never ask people if they're ready to move forward. And so that was in the 70s, and not 70s, 90s.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
The 90s. Yeah.
So I'm not somebody who's processed insurance claims in an office. I've not worked in a dental office, but I've been in hundreds and hundreds of offices and loved dental teams as I went through. And I love empowering the teams and the dentists and that whole combination. That's been really a channel of self-expression for me. So C3 results. So C3, what is C3? Clear, complete, compelling. That's what C3 stands for. Clear, complete, compelling. And since we started in 2006, there's a lot of other C3s around, but I doubt it was me. It's just kind of a cool way to identify things. And what is clear, complete, and compelling is communication, management, and marketing. So we work on all those elements. And I'm really good with the P&L. I'm really good with designing systems. I'm really good with a spreadsheet. and I love building structures to help the team be able to see what's happening. Early in my career as a manager and a trainer, I was taught that what you can see, you can move, and you can manage. And if you can't see it, you can't move it, and you can't manage it. And so even some of the best softwares, you can't really see what I want to see. Even with all the brilliant add-ons that we have today, and there are several very, very good ones, I still can't see what I want to see. So I build it. And then I make it simple enough for the teams to be able to see. And kind of the Goldilocks method, not too much, not too little, just right. Just the right things we want to see.
I love
it. So I always put together a system of trackers and reports that we look at together and that they can understand that are kind of the levers and the dials to grow the practice. That combined with the communication skills that have been developed over my life, that were contributed to by certainly much of the work I did in my early career in communication training, contributed to by all the dentists that I had a chance to work with, and the systems that Walter Haley taught. And so those communication systems are really the systems that have my teams be happier. It's because they can communicate authentically and they don't have to follow a script, because we don't teach scripts exactly. We teach systems and methods for communication and learning to ask effective questions. But it's not about the questions. It's about, what are we listening for? What do I want to hear from this patient? And how do I ask a question to discover what's really important to them? So it's not like, so anyway, my team seem to really enjoy it, and it makes them actually more effective at home with their husbands and their kids.
Yeah, for
in addition
sure.
to the patients.
Well, I love that you kind of started with all of your training, communication training, your mindset training before you kind of came into dentistry.
Yes.
And it comes into it's just so important when it comes to the communication in dentistry, not just with the dentists and their teams or the teams with each other, but the teams and the teams and their patients. It kind of just is full, it kind of is full fold. It covers everything. And so so I understand why mindset is so important for dental professionals. And you kind of shared with your very first client why that was so important to just kind of talk to him every morning and get in that mindset. We can all tell ourselves stories of what's happening but what is really happening and then figuring all of that out, right?
Yeah.
One thing I think would be fun to talk about is a lot of consultants work with startup dentists, but one of the things that you really focus on is re-inspiring a doctor who might be in that burnout phase. I think we have a lot of dentists across the nation right now who might be in that exact situation. And how do you go about re-inspiring someone who might be in that burnout phase?
Oh, I tell you, it's so close to my heart because here is a person, a man or a woman, who spent a lot of money and a lot of time going to dental school. And most of the people I work with have done hundreds of hours of continuing education that costs, as you and I both know, a big investment in their development. And then sometimes they love the dentistry, but the management is usually what burns them out. It's usually not the dentistry, it's the management. But in addition, they can do all these amazing things to help a patient look and feel beautiful. But they don't want to feel like a used car salesman, but they want to get a yes. And they want to have the opportunity to do what they've been trained to do. In fact, so many clients, I would say, many of the clients that are clients to this day, 15 years that we've been clients together, we've been partners together, 20 years. They came to me because they could do all that, but they couldn't do it because it was limited in how many yeses they could get, so to speak. So that is understanding what's really the burnout is number one, is what is really killing their inspiration. And we as human beings can go through what I call resignation. We just get resigned. We've just given up. And when we've given up, we can't see possibility. And when you can't see possibility, you lose your magic, and you lose your connection with people. There was a woman, the pandemic generated a lot of that because it was just so hard and so hard to communicate with people because of all the PPE and it was difficult because some people had laid off team and they were trying to work with a skeleton crew or not work at all. And then they had trouble getting their team back. There were so many things. Well, there was a woman who in the Kentucky area, and she is just a charming woman, been out of school 20 years, had a great practice, or good practice, I would say. Not a great, but a good, solid practice.
Mm-hmm.
But she was just so sick of having to manage. And her friend, who was a client of mine, and a very spiritual woman, both of them very inspired women in so many ways. And she said, don't sell. She was going to sell. She was just getting ready to sell to a DSO. And DSO is not the enemy or anything, but if you want to own and run your own practice, own and run your own practice, don't sell, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I love my practice, but I just don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. And she said, you got to talk to Suzanne. You got to work with Suzanne. And that was a pretty big vote of confidence. And we talked, though, and I really listened to her and I really heard her frustrations. And we put together systems of patient communication, of marketing. She hadn't really worked on marketing. So we came up with internal marketing that we did, some initial Facebook marketing we did. And then I have several marketing companies I work with once they get some cash flow going and they can invest in marketing, that they work with these companies or whoever they choose to really do more social media, revamp the website. And then you start getting great photography on the website and people start seeing you how you really want to see yourself. And the dentist gets excited. Um, but the biggest thing we did was we really worked with her and her team to communicate with patients and do what we call the emotional exam. And so when you have a new patient or you have a patient who's looking at some pretty extensive care, which they learn at, Coyce and Spear and Pankey, they learn all those wonderful things, but then how do I communicate about it? And so that's what we worked on, is how to communicate about it. And you can't talk about it unless you have the ears of the person listening. So you got to get the ears of the person listening. And you do that through asking questions and finding out, what do you miss most about your smile when you were a younger person? What do you really want your smile to look and feel like? How do you want to feel when you go to your daughter's wedding? It depends on what their motivations are. If it's a man, kind of cut and dried man, how long you've been tolerating putting up with these missing teeth back there? It must be hard to eat. It's not formulaic. It's a conversation with that human being about their situation in their life, but where we're really discovering, not from a dental what's needed procedural perspective, we're going to figure that out. That we can do, is what is important to them. What do they really want long term for the health and beauty of their mouth? And is that something that they want to know? Are they interested in what we can do to help them? And I like to teach my doctors, I say, don't start giving a treatment plan until you've said, so we've evaluated everything. Are you interested in what we can do for you? Yeah. Yeah. What can you do? Now you have permission to tell them. Because if you start telling them before you have permission to tell them, they're going to close you off. So we work a lot with permission. We work a lot with permission statement. I learned it from Walter Haley and the dental boot camp and use it to this day. If you were my patient, I'd say early on, in a minute, we're going to do a full exam. We're going to take some pictures. We're going to look and see what's really going on in there. And if it's okay with you, I want to tell you everything I see that deserves your attention. Is that okay with you? Yeah. Yeah. Nice. It's okay with me.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
And then you can do with it whatever you want, whatever you like to do. We're not attached. We're going to love you no matter what. And so you create this rapport that's unique, that's not like other dental offices. I want my dental offices to not be like other dental offices. I want them to be a home. I don't know if I covered everything you asked for, but that's kind of the things I have to say about that so far.
No,
anyway,
I think
it's going gangbusters.
That's great. Yeah, no.
Kentucky doctor, and she has a great team. She added Sarah to her practice. She grew. She also does some facial aesthetics. That grew. She has stuff in the magazines. That grew. So it's kind of fun.
That is really exciting. I love to hear that. And it sounds like one of the key cornerstones for building a practice is listening. I heard that over and over and over, listening, asking questions and listening. And that's how you build that relationship and you personalize the experience for each and every patient. Sounds to me like.
Yeah. And it lives inside of a structure. So the team, once they learn the structure, they know what's next. They know the next conversation to have, but mine's not going to sound like hers exactly, but it's going to have the same components. And so the patient doesn't feel spammed or like it's a spiel.
Like you're just using your script on me. Yeah. Because I know that's a big thing is scripting. A lot of people learn scripting and it's tricky with turnover in dentistry. It's tricky. You try to teach your new team members exactly how to handle each patient, the patient handoff, the conversations and all of that. And it sounds to me like like you say, you have a system and there's a structure to it, but at the base of it really is personalization. With questions and listening. So I think that's awesome.
If I could share with you, I was on the phone 2 days ago with a new team member who's working the concierge front office welcoming position for a client of mine in the Southeast. And it's a really nice practice, very sought after. It's hard to get an appointment in there. And so they gave her this, what we call the blue research form. They gave her our little form, and they've adjusted it some, which all my clients do, and I encourage them to adjust it some, but it's theirs. And she says, Suzanne, these questions are so canned. Why is it these questions are on here? Like, what do you like about going to the dental office? I said, oh God. I said, they're a prompt. That's not a question you would ever ask. It's a
Yeah.
prompt. It's a prompt. But let me tell you what's most important. It's not, we have a structure for this conversation, but what's important is what are you going to be listening for when you say, gosh, it's been a long time since you've been to the dentist. Was there a reason that you stayed away? And you're listening for, yeah, it was this thing, that thing. I didn't know what to expect financially, and they surprised me. Or the hygienist was too rough, and then she says, I said, and they've just given you a little piece of their heart. So you're going to say, oh, thanks so much for telling me that. You're not going to find that here. And I'll let the doctor know that you said that. That's okay with you. Permission again.
Yeah. I love that. I like the permission aspect. I've heard a lot of things that you talk about that's important to you in running your practice, in running your group as far as
Yeah.
your coaching organization. The 3 C's, everything, I'm thinking through, I've heard a lot of things, but I want you to just kind of recap what sets C3 Results Group apart from other dental consulting firms.
I can tell you that what my clients tell me, why they say it's a part, because I don't really know what other consultants do, honestly.
Yeah, for
I've never been
sure.
part of another consulting company. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
that
see
makes
what
sense. That
we've
makes
done,
sense.
Well, I've done a lot of speaking for the ADA and various, Yankee Dental and Hinman. I've done a lot of speaking. And you know how you get those testimonials at the end? I always had them fill out a piece of paper and send it to
Sure.
me. My
Right.
favorite one is this team member, and this is nothing against other consultants. They face it just like I do.
For
She
sure.
said, I hate consultants and I love Suzanne Black.
Oh,
And to me, that was great. And I don't want anybody to hate anybody, but
for
I
sure.
don't, I want to be me. And while we have all those structures, every client engagement looks a little different. Every office is a little different. Every doctor's a little different. The teams are some of the teams I work with have been together a long time. Some of the teams, gosh, we can't keep that team full. There's so much turnover happening in this, in certain markets. It's certain markets, that have that happening. And so what my clients tell me is that it's never going to be cookie cutter. It's going to be what fits me, but I can count on the principles and the foundation of what you teach will always be present. And that's
Okay,
kind of comes back to my belief about creating honesty and possibility for my clients, and then having a warm, kind, patient-focused workplace, and never recommending treatment that we don't think is important for the patient. We don't recommend it just because it's there. We recommend it because we believe that it's going to empower that patient. So that's some of the things, I think, the reasons people work with me to this day.
I love it.
Exciting. And you know what? I love it. I can't imagine retiring. So I just keep going.
Oh, that's good that you love it. Because if you love something, you're not really working, right? Isn't that what they say? You don't have to work a day in your life if you love what you're doing. And I can totally feel your passion and love for dentistry and helping teams, helping dentists, just so they're not in that burnout stage, helping patients, teams help patients know the why behind coming into the dentist, know the why behind taking care of their patients, all of those things. I know that those are all really important to you.
And what we're listening for. Yeah. I love that you picked up on
it.
Great.
Good. So do you have anything else you'd like to share before we wrap it up today?
Well, I've cut two things. Yeah, we're doing a dental boot camp. I did a lot of dental boot camps through the 90s and early 2000s, and then the pandemic hit and stuff, and we didn't do any boot camps, any public dental boot camps. I did some private ones in the offices. I did over Zoom, tried one over Zoom. It's like, this is not exactly the venue for it, but But we did a great dental boot camp last year in Louisville, Kentucky. And I have a dental boot camp coming up in Chicago in October, the 24th and 25th. And dental boot camp is a 2-day program where it's the foundation of all the things I teach. And we cover
Nice.
everything from leadership to understanding patient personalities to what I call visual language. How do I describe what's going on in their mouth and what the solution is without using dental terms, but using descriptive visual language? Because I want my patient to imagine it. Because if they can imagine
Right.
it, they can make it happen. And so that's what I want them to do is visualize it. And so we teach that. And then we teach
Nice.
handling objections and how to gain commitment and then we have a lot of fun and a lot of what is the foundation of that whole thing is partnership and communication and learning how to center yourself when you're in a really fight or flight mode. And that's kind of where the neuropsychology comes into play is how do you shift from reactivity to creativity? And the
That sounds
bridge is breath. You don't have to go
The
into
bridge is what?
breath. The bridge is
Nice.
breath. So I don't need to go in a dark room and meditate for 20 minutes. I can grab my assistant's hand and say, step out here with me for a minute. And we can just both go, okay, this is what we want to have happen. And we can create rather than react. And that's actually something that's coming up next year, a program called Awakening Conscious Leadership. And it'll be for doctors and their teams or doctors and their leadership teams. We'll see. We're evolving it, but it'll all be over Zoom and online.
Nice.
So that'll be fun.
But,
That's coming.
you
But
know,
the boot
good.
camp, I get so many things, so many irons in the fire, Jacqueline, I'm sorry. So the dental boot camp, by the way, in Chicago, we're at the Hilton Garden Inn out by the airport, which is a really great location. And I have a special code called eAssist. I think you can remember that
Yeah.
for any clients who heard this who want to come and get a 10% courtesy. So, and any consultants
Nice.
who want to come with their client, if you come with your client, you can come for free. And, we'll talk in advance and we'll talk about how to work together. And, I think it'd be great. I'm open.
I
I'm
love
not
it.
protected.
So that's so great. So they visit your website. You have a website to go to learn more.
We have a website for the dental boot camp program. It's called Dental Boot Camp with a K. So just write it all one word, dentalbootcamp.com. And that'll take you to the landing page where you'll see information about the boot camp in Chicago. You'll see 4 great testimonials that we made at the tail end of last October boot camp. And people, they were a little tired by this time, but they came across great. You'll love those testimonials. And just some question
Yes,
why people are coming and what they can get out of it.
that is
And they can
perfect.
call me. They want to call, they can call 800-710-7273. That's 1-800-710-7273. And the website for the whole company, I'm sorry, there's so many things, but that's just how it is these days.
No, it is. You're good.
C3results.com. Initial C, the number 3, results.com. So, and that
Great.
talks about everything we do.
So c3results.com. Well, you can learn about the boot camp. You can learn about Suzanne and all of the services that she has to offer. That might be a good place to start because she's talked about so many things today that have been so helpful into the dental industry. So I think we're about ready to wrap up. Thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate you really joining me today. I really appreciate you being here and sharing just what it is that you have to offer the dental community. And I can feel your heart and your passion to just helping these dentists and teams and patients, like all of the above, everything.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
It is. It's a whole thing. You're right. So as we wrap up, we just want to remind you that this podcast is sponsored by eAssist Dental Solutions. So if you are looking for a service to help practice like yours with your ROI, with, achieving financial and operational excellence, go to dentalbilling.com and you can discover how eAssist Dental Solutions can make a difference for you by taking the busy work off of your day-to-day when it comes to insurance claims and all of those things that create that headache for you. then you can really listen to what Suzanne has to say, because she can teach you all of the communication skills and the mindset skills that you need to really have a wonderful team and patience as well. So until next time, thank you again, Suzanne, and thank you everyone for being here, and hope to see you next time. So everyone take care.
The purpose of this podcast is to interview the consultants within our eAssist Consultant Network. This podcast is for informational purposes only. For more details, please visit the homepage of this podcast platform at dentalbilling.com. Thanks for listening.